we talk about the elephant in the room and the epic mustache that you have?
I appreciate it.
I tried to watch a little bit of media before coming on.
Yeah.
And, I don't think anybody's asked you about it, have they? Or at least nothing that I've seen.
Yeah.
I mean, like TV or whatever.
There was one reporter recently that made a comment on it. Yeah.
What'd they
I've gotta
say?
Give a shout out to my dad. My dad has a mustache.
Okay.
So I'm keeping
Is that the
tradition
influence?
going.
Was he the
Part
reason?
of it, yeah. Well, and also you work with what you have, right? So I can't grow a beard,
Oh, yeah. I can't grow anything.
but I've been blessed with, some hair above my upper lip, and so I make the best of it.
Yeah. So how'd you decide, what style to go with?
It just kind of happened.
Okay.
For real.
It's been a journey.
What do you
Yeah,
think
it has
about
been.
it?
I love it.
Are you saying that because he's right here or you love it?
No,
Okay.
I really
Just
do.
pretend I'm not here.
No, if I can be honest about my husband's mustache.
Yeah. Let's dive into this.
No, he had it once, right around we were college. He started growing it, and then he shaved it before our wedding, and I was like, oh my gosh, you look like you're 16 again. You have to grow it back. And he's had it pretty much ever
And
since.
I do what she says. So
Yeah.
here we are.
That's funny.
Never shaving it again.
Do you find it helpful actually as I mean this in the nicest way, but almost like a character part in being able to sell a product and go to investors? And
Man, we're talking about
you stand
me
out.
too much.
You know what I mean?
Let's see.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's the guy with the, just
Yeah.
little things.
It has helped for sure.
Okay.
Because we wear many hats at Elixir. Well, I'm sure we'll get into Elixir here soon.
Yeah.
But, we're known as the kombucha delivery people around town. A lot of our accounts, some of them know that we run the company, but most of them know us as the kombucha delivery people. So the mustache helps kind of reinforce that. When I show up, they know that I'm
Exactly
carrying kombucha with me.
That can't be a bad thing, right?
Yeah, it's helpful for sure.
Yeah. So let's just dive into sort of the origin story and who you all are and how we got to where we are today.
Sure.
I mean, in this particular show, I like to keep it really relaxed. Whatever happens. Try not to go back and edit just because I want it to be a real fly in the wall kind of experience.
Cool. Authenticity. I like that.
Yeah. And then, it's I think it makes sense to hit some of the high level kind of things about kombucha and Elixir and whatnot. But I think diving into your stories is also helpful too, know, because entrepreneurs, they find inspiration whenever they can, find other people that are being successful and they've been open about their journey and they can resonate with the journey. And I think that's useful.
Yeah, for sure.
If we can dive into that.
Well, before we dive in, let me address one more elephant in the room.
Okay.
We're from Louisville, born and raised. Elixir's based in Louisville. If we say go Cards on air, do we get kicked out immediately, or will you?
No,
actually
I think
edit
we're
that part
actually just about to stop recording. Yeah,
on the Lexington Business Show? I didn't know, where the line was there.
No, that's all right. I went to UK, but that's all right.
Okay,
I don't really care.
Yeah,
I care, but I don't.
Friendly rivalry, mostly friendly rivalry. At times it could get heated.
I thought you were going to go with the uniform that we've now established,
Yeah,
the black and white, the joggers.
aesthetic.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a given.
Why not? How'd you land on this vibe, by by the way?
We're actually just talking.
I know we're
about,
bouncing around in conversation. I like to keep it loose.
This is our wardrobe.
Yeah.
Monochrome, pretty much.
And also, at the time that we, started the company, we're trying to figure out even labels and what we wanted anything to look like. There's a ton of color, or at least even 10 years ago, the kombucha shelf at the grocery store was kind of new agey, very bright, vibrant colors, and we were if you need to stand out and maybe be a little bit different, so we kind of went with a more clean black and white sort of aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we've leaned into the color more recently, but our core branding is black and white.
Yeah.
So.
Do you consider that to be more upscale, or how do you view that?
I think it just resonates. It's kind of how we dress anyways. And so it was just kind of an outgrowth of what felt natural to
Our
us.
closet's 80% black.
Yeah. This is pretty much mine as well.
Okay. Right
Yeah.
on. Yeah. So you understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also being in video, Like Lance is in all black too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
black and white.
You tend
White hat.
to wear all black so that you blend into the background and
Yeah, for
no
sure.
spill and all that kind of stuff. So
That's another thing. Yeah, brewing. Oh my gosh, if I could like turn this shirt white and see.
oh, gross.
How dirty it would be.
Let's not do that.
Let's
Yeah.
not
I'm
do
just
it.
kidding.
But yeah, it's also helpful for how messy and
Yeah, we get
labor
sprayed
intensive it can be in the brewery.
for sure.
Yeah.
We get sprayed with kombucha a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It works.
Well, yeah, let's dive into that. The story of you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
for sure.
So,
Like I said, we're both from Louisville. Danielle grew up in Fern Creek. I grew up in J-Town, for anyone out there who knows what those two neighborhoods are. But we went to high school together. So we've been together 18 years. We just celebrated 18 years together
congrats.
a couple weeks ago. Thank you. We still celebrate our dating anniversary, as cheesy as that might sound. Any excuse to have
Just 'cause
sushi.
It's been so long. Yeah. It's go out for sushi.
Yeah. Went to high school together. We both pursued careers in healthcare. Went to University of Louisville together. I graduated from a nursing program. She did exercise physiology, focus in human nutrition. We were, both out there doing our thing in healthcare for almost 10 years and kind of became obsessed with like health and human nutrition and gut health specifically right around 2013. That's when we were gifted our first kombucha culture. We can go into how kombucha is made a little bit later,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, his aunt who made it at home, just like we went to visit her in Knoxville one weekend and we were like, what is that over there?
Yeah.
And she was like, here, take one home and this is how you make it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't want any part of that.
Yeah,
and
but
so
I was interested.
Corey
Yeah.
took it over and like that became like his kind of DIY homebrew
yeah.
Got it.
So
interest. So
we started home brewing 2013. Gave most of it to my cousin who has some serious gut health issues.
Okay.
And it helped relieve a lot of his symptoms. And so we were like, that was kind of like an aha moment for us that there's something interesting about this product called kombucha.
Were you thinking about that at the time where you might have known that there was some potential benefit to him?
I mean, his aunt just kind of gave us the rundown of like, this is supposed to be good
Probiotics.
for like inflammation and probiotics.
Oh, okay.
And like,
Yeah.
that was pretty much the extent of what we knew about kombucha.
Yeah.
So we gave it to him. He saw relief and we were like, oh, maybe there's
That's interesting.
something's going on here.
Yeah. So we kept home brewing. We, kind of developed our craft over a couple years and we weren't really thinking about the business side of it. It was just something that we liked to do. It was a fun project that we saw benefit, in the life of my cousin. It really helped him. So
Corey's a nurse, and so our intention was to do travel nursing. We had already done like 2 assignments at that point. And so we had a laundry list of different cities we wanted to go to and travel and live for a little while. And then, we there was a juice bar in Louisville that had kombucha on the menu. Corey's sister went in and she's like, oh, you guys have kombucha? And they're like, well, we used to, but we don't right now. We're having some issues with supplying it. And she's like, well, my brother makes kombucha. And they were like, well, tell him to bring some in. And so.
Oh, that's cool.
So I did. We put some home brew down in a bottle of GT's kombucha, which you may be familiar.
No.
Oh, okay. So if the industry as a whole is about $1 billion industry in the U.S., GT's makes up roughly 60% of that. So they're the market leader. They were, the first major brand to get national distribution, and they make an incredible product. They have an awesome brand, and so we were drinking GT's and making our own homebrew. And so we put some blueberry pomegranate homebrew down in a bottle of GT's, ripped his label off and put my name and number on it, and took it to the juice bar. A couple days later, we got a call from the owner, and she said that she really liked the taste of it and said that, she has 5 locations, and if we were to go commercial with this product, that she would carry it.
That's cool.
And like, we were like, should we do this?
Should we do this? We don't have any startup capital. We don't have any business experience.
No business. Didn't do any market research whatsoever.
No market research. We don't, know the first thing about commercial kitchen distribution. Like there were so many things that we didn't know, but we jumped in and we're just.
Did you think of it
figured
as a hobby at first, or were you serious about making it a brand?
Yeah. So it wasn't. We honestly didn't think anything about turning it into a business until that it literally just fell into our laps.
Yeah, truly. And then we took, I think like by the time we got that call. It was like the last week of December in 2015, and by April of 2016 we were moved into our commercial kitchen. So we took that time to figure out like, where are we going to buy bottles from,
what are we going to call it?
Yeah, what are we going to call it even? Like just
how do we sell it,
like scale it. I mean, honestly, like when we went to Rainbow Blossom, which is like a local like small grocery store in Louisville, and we got Rainbow Blossom, we were like, we have arrived. Like, this is awesome. But yeah, we're just like going around like all of Louisville buying like as much tea as we could, like taking all the boxes of tea, opening little packages one at a time. Like we didn't know about buying loose leaf tea or bulk sugar or anything like that. It was, but we figured it out by like, we took a few months to figure out like what we needed and kind of just started sourcing ingredients and materials.
We knew that we had a passion for making the product, and we figured that the business side of it we would figure it out. And luckily we give a lot of credit to our city that buys local. They are like super supportive of local businesses. That was huge for us. A lot of retail accounts that, kombucha at the time, this is 2016 that we launched Elixir. Kombucha was still a pretty niche product. You could find it at Whole Foods. Kroger was starting to get it, but it was still kind of like, this kind of alternative beverage. And so there was a lot of education that went along with it. And still to this day, lots of education still goes into, gut health and probiotics and why people should care about their gut health and how kombucha fits into that. But it's becoming more mainstream now. So there was a lot of heavy lifting to do early on, especially in this area, because Kentucky is generally a little bit behind some of these new like health trends. And so, luckily there were other brands in the area that were also helping lift up and raise awareness about kombucha and gut health. And so we were able to kind of piggyback onto that. And little did we know, the industry was about to grow like crazy. So we kind of, luckily just rode this wave of kombucha kind of making it into the mainstream. And now we're to the point where at a farmer's market or event, most people that come up to us don't need an explanation of what kombucha is. We still have a few, but it's like totally different from when it started. We used to do like this little like farmer's market in Louisville called Flea Off, and so many people come up like, what is this? How do you pronounce it? Is this gonna get me drunk? Like, no. But now people just come up and they order and like don't need to, like Corey said, doesn't need a long explanation of what the product even is.
Yeah. I have so many different questions to ask. I guess maybe let me go back to something you said a while ago. So 2013 or so, you're like tinkering with craft kombucha at a time when like craft beer is doing really well. So why'd you decide that you should maybe go into that area and not the thing that was like really on fire at the time?
Honestly, it was just because that was what we were doing. We have a deep interest in health and human nutrition, like I was saying, with our backgrounds in healthcare.
Right.
We, that is something that's just kind of innate to both of us. And kombucha as a low calorie, probiotic rich beverage that helps optimize your gut health. We loved the fact that this product that we're making in our kitchen, it helps with to nourish your gut, which is such an important aspect of your overall health.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's like the perfect product for us. Like we have such a deep passion for kombucha that there was no other option really. It just kind of was what we were already doing. And we got pretty, between 2013 and launching, we got pretty good at making it. So we had refined our recipe. We knew exactly like how we wanted to make it. Making it at scale was the part that we needed to figure out.
Yeah.
And we've, spent the last basically 7 years figuring out how to do that.
And where'd that passion for just helping people is, in nursing and healthcare in general, where'd that come from for both of you?
That's a great question. No one's ever asked me that.
My intention was to become a physical therapist. I started at U of L, and then about halfway through my program, U of L sold their program to Bellarmine, which is a private college. So, you know, what would have been like a $20,000 master's degree became $100,000. So I was like, well, I'm not doing that. So I pivoted to like just personal training, exercise physiology. So that's kind of where my shift happened in college. So it's, I don't know, like we've just been like active people and just always had a passion for it. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For me, my intention originally was to go into pre-med. And I went into the biology program at U of L and then got a job working at a hospital in Louisville and got to talk to nurses and doctors and nurse anesthetists and PAs and like all sorts of different segments of, clinical healthcare. And after a lot of conversations, I kind of realized maybe nursing is the way to go. There's more flexibility. There's a lot of travel opportunity in that industry. And you don't have to devote your life to schooling and then residency for, 8 to 12 years sometimes. You can go right into, it's almost like a trade school in a way.
Yeah.
Like I was at a university, but the nursing program is very specific and I knew exactly what I was going to do the day after graduation. So I'm really lucky that I just kind of happened to get a job at a hospital that, I was able to learn what direction I needed to go in. And I'm really glad I did. I resigned from nursing last year after almost 11 years. And, I loved it. It was dynamic and interesting. I worked in an ICU, so it was kind of high stress, but I learned to thrive on high stress, and that has kind of helped with,
which is serving us now.
I was gonna say,
kind of helped
that's
with
a
running
great
a
skill
business.
set.
Yeah, especially kind of an undercapitalized business ran by two people that have healthcare experience but no business experience. It's been a journey with ups and downs, and we've just learned to enjoy the process. There's not like, we realize we set goals, and then once we achieve that goal, you have a moment of where you can like cherish it, but it's not too quick after that you start to think about what that next goal is,
Right.
and then start striving toward the next one. So we've learned that you have to enjoy the struggle, enjoy the journey, because otherwise I don't think we would have made it this far if we didn't, if we couldn't do that properly. Because after 7 years, especially in kind of the slower seasons for us, like in the winters, for instance, Q1 has kind of been historically been like our low quarter. 2, 3, and 4 are generally very strong, but when the restaurant scene slows down and people aren't going out as much,
people are coming down from Christmas, financially, emotionally.
Yeah, and most of our retailers are in those segments: bars, restaurants, coffee shops, independent food markets and stuff. When those kind of slow down, that affects like our sales. And so, January, February was a struggle for us many, many years in a row. And there were some Februaries where we didn't think that we were going to make it through. But through persistence and stubbornness is an aspect of that too. And learning to just keep your eyes on continuing to move forward, just continuing to persist. That's been, and doing it together, like as husband and wife, like going through this process together and having each other to kind of lean on, has been huge. Like that's probably been,
well, and that's got to be
asset.
A great dynamic as well, like being able to stay on track because you both have, equal need for this to be successful at this point.
Yeah.
If it was a different partner that maybe was drifting away, like that would be different. But like, what is that like, working together, going home after working together? Like, do you bring work home? Do you have a strict policy of don't do that, or you work on the weekends? Like,
I try to enforce that policy a little more than Corey probably does, but it's a dream. It's a dream to work with Corey. And we've had a lot of our friends say, like, I could never work with my spouse. Like, we'd kill each other or whatever. Like, we wouldn't make it, working in business and also being married together. But We love it. We love it so much. And I think like like Corey said, like the struggle is there, but like we're sharing it together, and you know, bearing that together. And I think like, yeah, maybe like you said, if you came home like after a really stressful day at the kitchen or the brewery, to a spouse who like has also been at work all day, but in a different setting, maybe like, I don't know. I feel like we just, it
brings us closer.
Yeah.
Like we're sharing this experience
both get
together.
it.
Yeah,
right?
we both get like what the, you know, the
you don't have to
heaviness of
explain
whatever
it to each
struggle
other.
is at the day or the week or upcoming.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for maybe other couples that are thinking about going in business, or maybe you're not going in business because they think it's not a good decision? What advice do you have?
Man, I don't know, because everybody's so different, right? And like every couple is different, has their own, you know, particularities and ways of communicating with each other, and preferences, and even value systems. Like, so to give a piece of advice that would apply to other couples out there is tough. I'd have to think about that one for a second.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Well, I
Put you
mean,
on the spot.
Well, that's okay. I think what we had to learn was like, okay, I'm talking to you as my husband now. Like, I'm not your business partner. I'm your husband right now, or vice versa. Like, you know, like we like can't take things too personally sometimes. Like, because if it's a business, you know, situation we're working through, not to try not to get our feelings hurt in the process. But it's like, but we're, you know, it's so trying to like figure out like, okay, I've got like my business hat on now, you know.
Yeah.
And having to hear it with your business hat on too, right? Like you said, not being
like,
emotional about
like,
it.
As if we weren't married. Like if you were my business partner, but like a friend, how would I take this advice or this criticism or whatever? So trying to keep that like in mind, or, you know, compartmentalized maybe.
Yeah, I think
but, like abundant communication is what I would say.
Yeah.
Over communicate.
I think, and part of it too is just how you identify with your ideas. Like, this is almost like, it's kind of like a personal journey to find a way to not identify with your ideas, like to not self-identify with, you know, with your ideas and have your ego wrapped up in the things that you think about.
So like if you have an idea for the company or something, that if she says, no, that's bad, that you don't take that personally.
It's tough.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of that's the reaction that you want to have generally in those moments. And it takes like some, like a moment of, this might sound cliche, but like a moment of mindfulness to realize what your reaction is to feedback, and to choose to distance yourself from that idea, because that, you know, we get really philosophical with it, but where do ideas even come from? Like, they generally just kind of, for me, they just appear, right? Like I'm not like, there's not like a part of me that's crafting the next thought that comes to mind. It just kind of happens. And so without, you know, trying to go too deep in analyzing that, like,
I think we should.
Yeah.
I think that's actually good. Right?
I mean, but really, like, and dealing like with running a business with your spouse, it really takes that ability to kind of distance yourself from your ideas in a way, and just try to look at them objectively. And it's difficult. It's, you know, sometimes we're better at it than others.
Sure, of course.
But it becomes like a style of communication that you develop over time. And, you know, we have the benefit of 18 years of experience together. So,
yeah, that's true.
You know, we've gotten pretty decent at it, but we're not perfect. That's for sure.
But that's what's supposed to happen, growth, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're in business together or just in a relationship together.
Yeah.
So that's good. You're there to help each other figure it out.
So
how has she grown in 18 years?
Let's see.
You don't have to answer that.
I'm just kidding. Next.
She has less road rage.
I do.
Less, but it's still there, apparently. Did she do anything on the way here?
No, he drove.
I drove. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No.
Well, that gave you, you know, plenty of opportunity to engage in road rage.
For sure. She has a lot of grace now at green lights.
It's really the green lights.
Yeah, when people are on their phones or just not paying attention. I've noticed that she gives what she used to give half a second at the most before she was honking, but now she gives 3 or 4 seconds. And so that's progress.
So how did you get that progress? Where'd that growth come from?
Well, to be honest, there was just more and more stories of people like pulling over at stop signs and getting out and shooting people for like.
So it's survival.
Yeah, it's
okay. I don't want to be killed today.
Yeah.
Self-preservation for sure. I was like, ooh, that person got shot because they gave somebody the finger. I probably ought to stop doing that.
I feel like I've recently, maybe in like the last 6 months, really started being mindful of that same thing. Because I'd be like, oh my God, people on the phone. And then there would be times where I was that guy at the front of the line, like looked at my phone for a split second, but it was long enough and timed perfectly where I was completely wrong for what I'm doing. And it's like, I can't be a hypocrite about this.
Yeah.
So,
And that's the thing, like if you're at the front, not to go like down this tangent, but like if you're at the front of the line, I feel like you have a duty to everyone behind you to pay attention to the light because you're the
line leader.
You're the line leader. And buddy, if I like, because we've all been there, right? Like you're sitting at a turn light that's going to be there for 4 seconds. And then all of a sudden the person in the front realizes it's their turn and then it turns yellow and wastes all these other people's time.
Well, truthfully, we all have that duty, right? Like one thing that really makes me upset, not to go down a dark path, but is like 1 in every 7 like deaths is like in a car or drivers is in a car accident. Yeah. It's like, that's just wild. Yeah. It's like we have a duty to just put the damn phone down.
Absolutely.
And for sure.
And pay attention to what's going on.
Yes,
you know?
Absolutely.
So anyway,
these are the hot takes. These are the hot takes. Lexington Business
I love
Show.
it.
Y'all come here for.
That's right.
That's what we're here for.
Reduce your road rage. Right.
So, in no particular order of things, I was thinking about this too. Like you both outline a pretty active lifestyle, and sort of being predisposed to being helpful and mindful of health and what you're putting in your body. And a lot of people don't come from a background like that. So how does kombucha overcome that? Because lifestyle change is obviously going to be something to help adopt the product, for people that would rather turn to Coca-Cola or something right now, for them to go, wait, I'm drinking poison. Maybe I should drink something that's actually going to help me. But they're not predisposed to that mindfulness because they're also the people eating, Cheetos or whatever. Right. So like, how do we get to the point where like the entire lifestyle can evolve to really adopt kombucha at huge scale, not just $1 billion industry, but more?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a big question. I'm glad you mentioned soda because, we've recognized, and I think it's pretty clear that there's a growing awareness of the impact of food and beverage and just like everything you put into your body and its impact on your longevity, your health span, more importantly, like how you feel today, regardless of how many more years you might have left. Like, how do you feel today? There's a big shift that's happening, and people are kind of waking up to soda and its impact on health, and alcohol. Those are the two big ones that we see kombucha as a perfect alternative for. Which
makes sense to my earlier question, why not craft beer?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we kind of circle back to that. Yeah, for sure. There's a shift that's kind of happening. And in soda, there's almost every week or two, we get people telling us that they've swapped their sodas out for kombucha and they're feeling so much better. They're obviously reducing their calories and all the other chemicals that are in sodas, but at the same time, they're introducing living probiotics in the form of bubbly kombucha. And and people can feel the difference. Like when you don't have fermented foods like kombucha, kimchi, sauerkraut, these things that have living bacteria in it that are so beneficial to your gut health, when you don't have those in your diet and then you introduce something that has those in it, you can feel the difference. Like people say that my gut was a wreck before I started drinking your product. And so there's definitely a shift that's happening. People are becoming more aware of food and beverage and its impact.
Yeah, and like just the gut health in general has been linked to so many. There's still so much research coming out about like the importance of gut health, what lies in our guts. Didn't you? What was it, like trillions of cells of?
Yeah, there's like 400 trillion bacteria in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to stack them one on top of the other, they'd reach from here to the moon. That's living
That's inside your body.
Inside your body,
which is wild.
Yeah.
And how much of that do you kill in antibiotics, by the way?
That's a good question. A lot of
not to go down that.
Yeah,
but I'm just curious.
Antibiotics can just wipe out your good gut, the bacteria in your gut, and
it kills all the good and
because that's obviously a big problem going on right now, right? Like things are mutating and sort of
definitely
resistant to that
for sure.
So making them stronger.
And overprescription of antibiotics is a problem that's starting, like people are starting to become more aware and more cognizant of, not just writing a prescription for an antibiotic for any little sniffle that you have, but antibiotics definitely have their place. Like they're one of the, an innovation in medicine that has been it's been such a huge benefit to humanity. But at the same time, used in the wrong ways, they can wreak havoc on especially your gut microbiome. And like 75% of your immune system is in your gut as well.
95% of your serotonin roughly is produced in your gut.
So your mental health is affected by your gut.
There's the vagus nerve is what connects your mind to your gut. And so that's sending signals to your brain all day. What you put in your body is like, it does have an effect on your on your brain.
Absolutely. It's fascinating. And so, we do our best. Like we still enjoy our, pizza or our burger every once in a while.
I had Little Caesars last night.
All things in moderation, right?
Like I never have pizza. I had it last night for the first time in probably a year.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, you mentioned serotonin just real quick. Like how does something like that, your gut health affect SSRIs? Kind of curious.
Ooh. I don't know that we can. I don't know that I have a good
because anxiety
answer to
is obviously on the rise. You got perhaps overprescription of things like Lexapro and Zoloft and stuff. So, could gut health improvement have any sort of effect on that?
I mean, just the fact that most of your serotonin is produced in your gut. It's logical that if you have a diet that promotes gut health, that optimizes your gut health. So probiotics in the form of kombucha and the other products that I mentioned earlier, kimchi and sauerkraut, but also prebiotics, which is fiber. So, salads and fresh fruits and vegetables and, things that are high in fiber. Those two things in conjunction with each other are just superfoods. They nourish the gut.
Yeah, it's not enough just to have probiotics. Your probiotics need something to eat, and so that's where prebiotics come in.
Yeah, absolutely. So a kombucha and a salad is like the ultimate gut health meal. And so,
kombucha dressing, right?
It's possible. A kombucha vinaigrette.
Is that a thing, right?
Yeah, you can.
Is that already a thing?
It's not. But the thing is,
all right, so we're going to start our LLC or whatever we're doing real quick.
Proprietary.
I'm going to hold the episode.
Yeah.
If you heat your kombucha, if you were to thicken it or reduce it down, it would kill the beneficial bacteria.
But it would still have the acidity. The acids are another component too. The functional benefit of kombucha is like the probiotics and the organic acids. So both of those kind of work together to promote health, especially gut health.
So replace the lemon on your salad, right? With
absolutely.
some kombucha.
Yeah, and it's kind of got that tartness too, like you want in a vinaigrette as well. So it could be. I think we're onto something here.
So something, right? I know that you really ultimately want to get to the funding and things of that nature, which we'll get to.
Cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have that in the back of my mind because one of our clients and friends, he's got a podcast called The Unicorn Finders.
Nice.
They're based, well, I guess really they're in Tampa and Nashville and all around Raleigh. But they try to find companies that are startups, early stage startups that are doing really, really good work. So if you want, you should go on there too.
Cool,
Because they have an audience
An
that's
intro
like
would be awesome.
absolutely tapped into this.
Right on.
sure.
I already told them about it. They'd be
great.
interested.
Cool.
So,
Cool. That's cool.
We are interested.
but I think about the questions, that they would ask, or, anybody that's sort of in that VC world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I'm trying to think, is like from that VC perspective.
Yeah.
So that's where my questions are coming from.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I would ask, like, you're saying very mindful terms as far as like, people are coming around to not eating or drinking soda because sugar, and they're aware of type 2 diabetes and, all the other kind of things that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
They're being very mindful and thoughtful and purposeful behind that choice. And a lot of people just go, I don't give a shit. I just want to, when I'm home, I want to get the soda I've had for 42 years and feel good. I'm at home. I don't want to think. I don't want to be educated. I don't want to feel this or feel like a science fair from school. I just want to enjoy myself.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how big that population would be, but like, I would imagine there's a decent size.
Sure.
For
Yeah.
sure.
That's an overcoming kind of thing, So how do you do that? How do you get?
How do we reach them?
Yeah, I mean, and how do you have staying power where it's not just standing on the sidewalk and somebody's like, I guess I'll try it, and then they try it and they go, oh wow, the fermented stuff has a different kind of taste. It's different than a Coke.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, that's different than my Coke equals bad, right?
Yeah.
So how do you overcome all of that?
I think that you just, for me, and Danielle may agree, that you can't please everyone, and the sooner you understand that, the better. And through marketing, kind of that two-way communication you have with your consumer as you grow your brand, you get feedback from your consumers, and you realize like who your consumer is, like why people find benefit in your product and why they love it and what they're using it for and what they're swapping out for it, whether it's soda or alcohol or anything else. Or if it's just that they're, plugging it into their routine and it's just an addition, it's a nice thing that they do to add a little bit of functional benefit to their nutrition. You kind of discover where your consumers are and your customers are, and you cater to them. And you hope that you can grow that pie as your business grows, but you're not going to be able to please everybody. And if you kind of have to expect that you're going to have people that love your brand and your product, and there are going to be people that hate it. And that's an expectation, because if you try and cater to everybody, then you really lose focus, and you get really scattered trying to like chase all the different leads. And so,
well, and if I can add this to it
please.
as well. So I mentioned earlier, like obviously there's like a lifestyle around that mindfulness too, right? Same type of people that might drink kombucha would be a little bit more mindful of like, well, I'm going to get grass-fed beef or something, right? Or farm fresh eggs that hit whatever. So is there any benefit into trying to like secure the future of that sort of mindful lifestyle in general, because it's going to lead to perhaps security in the beverage space? Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we've never like necessarily called ourselves a lifestyle brand.
Heavens no.
We sometimes we cringe at that, because a lot of brands just kind of like to say that. But it's true that like for an alternative type beverage, which kombucha has historically been, it's making it more into the mainstream now.
The household penetration has definitely gone up in recent years.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's still a lot of work to be done.
Still a lot of work. But it does fit into a lifestyle, kind of in a way, for a lot of people.
After we're done hiking, we bring a cooler with us, because like a post hike or post activity kombucha, there ain't nothing like it.
Yeah, absolutely. and we're not the only ones. Like the people that are going to Whole Foods and stocking their refrigerators with Elixir on the regular and making it like incorporating into their daily routine, generally follow like there are other lifestyle patterns that are kind of in that same wheelhouse, whether it's an active lifestyle or or sobriety. Like kombucha is as a great alternative for alcohol.
I was just thinking about the packaging.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this totally makes sense. Most people, well, not most people, but a lot of people they'd run to the local grocery store while they're at the beach and grab a 6-pack or something, right, of beer or something. But it's like I could see this sort of maybe a beer vibe in the packaging itself.
Yeah.
And so like still that like, I mean, even just like showing up. If you show up and you have something that looks, like frou-frou or whatever, while everybody else has Bud Light, like you're probably not going to pull that out. But if you have something that blends in and whatever else, like, I'm just
and if you pour it into a
purely
glass,
aesthetic looking at the packaging. That's all I'm pulling from.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and it's in a can, and most, craft beverage, a lot of craft beverage has moved into the can space. And so it kind of like, it fits that format too, where, you grab a 6-pack and bring it to a party. You can it's pretty versatile too. So you can make drinks with it, cocktails and mocktails. Kombucha is a perfect mixer for it. So
we like to have one like as like our last drink of the night, like finish the night with the kombucha so that like, can get to work on that liver and, and maybe not go to bed or like wake up hungover because I didn't need that last beer last night. Just having different use occasions or like, we try not to drink during the week. And so like sometimes I'll pour my kombucha in a wine glass because it makes me feel fancy and, kind of just serves as a different use occasion for what I would have alcohol, just choosing, something that's still tasty and fermented, but.
And when you bring up, was it your brother that had
my cousin?
Your cousin, I'm sorry. So is this something that people that have like Crohn's or anything of that nature that it makes sense for them to maybe turn to? Is there any sort of medical backing there? Does that make sense?
Sure.
People that have gut issues,
right?
Like diagnosed.
I know you can't make any health claims, right? And
I know.
Consult your physician before you make any.
Right. We'll put that on.
Yeah, for sure. But
I didn't know if maybe you found that like people in that community and some doctors were like, hey, there might be some evidence here.
Yeah, we have had so many people that deal with Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, IBS in general, just feeling like their their digestive health is off kilter and just doesn't feel, normal. Have so many people from those communities and that deal with those different issues have reached out to us and told us that, oh my gosh, my gut was a wreck, but after drinking Elixir and kombucha in general, like it has really relieved a lot of my pain and suffering. And it's not a panacea, it's not a cure-all for anything, but it's added benefit. It's something that you can add to your routine or replace something that might not be that good for you with kombucha. And it kind of fits into, we like a more holistic approach. Like it's not the golden gun, right?
Right.
But
so
it's part of
to go with that. To frame it for some people, maybe it's like, is it a beverage that you should enjoy that happens to have benefits, or is it not a medicine, but is it a fix for something? Does my question make sense?
It's the former. Okay. It's the former. Our goal is to make a delicious beverage first that happens to have the functional aspect and the health benefits. We kind of live in a world where, like, especially in beverage, taste is king, right? If it doesn't taste great, people aren't going to buy it again. Right. Even if it is the most, even if it's the most beneficial thing that you could put into your body, it's going to be hard to get repeat customers. So we really focus on making a delicious, consistent, high quality beverage. And we take great care to monitor our fermentation environment. There are certain parameters that we make sure that we're hitting, and there's some manipulation that happens during fermentation that we kind of help the cultures along. We try and create conditions in which they can, ferment. They can ferment optimally, but really, like, our goal is to make a beverage that lots of people can enjoy, and if they happen to understand the health benefits of it, that's a bonus for us.
I'm sitting over here laughing because I had some stupid thing go through my head of like, ferment faster, damn it. Like, standing there yelling at it.
Yeah. And we kind of like it to like, it takes time. You know, we're on like a 3-week ferment from, you know, raw ingredients to finished product, roughly 3.5 till it's out the door. But the bourbon industry can also relate to that. Like, you can't speed up the time it needs to sit in a barrel. It just is time.
And you have to be okay with that.
And that's and there are brands out there getting around that with like kombucha concentrate, which we're
vehemently opposed to.
Yes. So do your research.
Pasteurized from concentrate products that you Kind of whip up in an afternoon. Lots of brands are seeing that as an opportunity, and that also creates shelf stability, and they can store it like out on the shelves instead of in the refrigerator, and they don't have to worry about.
Well, and transportation's different then, right?
Yeah, it's cheaper transportation.
Cold chain distribution is more difficult.
Yeah,
and you could probably send just the concentrate, and then they can like across the country and have somebody else at a bottling place like
dump it in a
water,
tank,
right?
add water,
just add
and flavoring, and a proprietary probiotic, and call it kombucha.
Yeah, so we do what's called a traditional ferment. That we just,
which takes time, but it's a living beverage. Like, if we were to pour one of these cans into one of these glasses here and put a cloth over it and let it sit on this table here for after a couple days, it will start to ferment again, and it will grow a culture on top of the surface of the kombucha. And that's how you know that's a living beverage.
Yeah, if you want to find out if your
it's
brand
alive.
If your brand is not Elixir, which it should be,
you can test this.
Yeah, test that, and after like 4 or 5 days, a culture should start growing on the surface.
And if it doesn't, you have a product that's been pasteurized or made from concentrate.
And so, why is that bad? Make that just more clear, if you don't mind. Like, why don't I want the pasteurized concentrate? Does it still have? I mean, does it still have the gut health components?
You know, or we can't say one way or the other, but there's a long history of kombucha production. It goes back almost 2,000 years, and it's been made a certain way for that long. And we think that there's a lot of wisdom in, like a lot of ancestral wisdom there to be learned from. That and we've chosen to take the path of a traditional ferment to kind of honor that history and respect the nature too of it. Like, it's a natural fermentation, living culture that works together, bacteria and yeast, to turn a sugary sweet tea into a low calorie, probiotic and organic rich beverage that is largely left alone to do its thing. Like, and we have a deep respect for that process, and so we've chosen to adhere to a traditional ferment as one of our core values. And it
almost sounds kind of like mass producing food versus
it's like
right, yeah, like oh my gosh, what do you call it whenever you send your stuff to like the place that mass produces your stuff?
Like a co-packer.
Like co-packer,
sure.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're in there like tinkering and going, well, we're not going to use real sugar because high fructose corn syrup is going to be less expensive and that kind of thing, right? And it's going to taste generally the same.
Yeah.
So you cut corners, probably cut costs at the same time, but at what cost, right?
Sure.
And if you're there for gut health, if you're there for a healthy purpose, you probably aren't there to cut corners either, right?
Yeah.
So that respect for that process makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Because if that's your why for kombucha, right? Like, it makes sense to choose something like Elixir.
And honestly, like, if brands choose to go the other route, to each their own, right? Like, we're not gonna go run smear campaigns against them. But the consumer should know. And they're starting to wake up to the differences between like a traditionally fermented kombucha and some of these larger kind of mass-produced, highly processed, pasteurized products. You can taste the difference. Like, if we cracked one of those open here and you did a side-by-side, you know which one is the traditional ferment and which one isn't. And I think consumers are kind of waking up to that difference and are learning about the different ways of making kombucha. And
I think you actually need them. because it just helps broaden what's possible with kombucha, whether you like their process or not.
Yeah.
It's at least turning people to that word of kombucha and away from something else.
That's a good perspective, and that's a good way to frame it, really.
Yeah.
Because, you think of some like, I don't know, Natty Light versus some like real traditional beer.
Like a West Six. Yeah, like a
right.
West Six IPA.
Yeah, right.
Just
like
down the
people
road
that
from here.
really love what they do.
Yeah.
They do it right. And they're there for the enjoyment of the craft of it.
Yeah.
Not for the enjoyment of the money that comes from serving you basically water.
Yeah. And to your point about like the difference of like Natty Light versus a craft, beer that's brewed the traditional way, the price point on the shelf is going to be different too. So if, a certain brand can sell it for $2.99, but we're $3.99, and you're new to kombucha and you're maybe a little price sensitive, which one are you going to choose? And so like, that's where it's like, okay, well they could, they made this bottle of kombucha or can of kombucha for 25 cents and ours is, much higher. Like it's gonna, so that's where it's the struggle with like the pricing on the shelves, for the consumer who is new to kombucha. Like that's the
But
issue.
if that's their gateway, the price sensitive version of it, now they have a taste for it and appreciation for something with that word kombucha printed on it, then they turn mindful of the one I've been having is like, I'm gonna try that more expensive one. There's got to be a reason it's $1 more or
there
whatever.
Will be some people that will give it another shot, but there will be some people that are turned off by the category completely based on their first experience. And so
we've had people come up to our tent before, like at an event, and be like, oh no, like I've had kombucha before, I've made my mind up about it, I don't want anything to do with it. And we're like, no, just give us a shot. Try it out.
I'm really glad that you brought this up, because I've been sitting on this question of like, I feel like this happens in a lot of places too, is like you get that word associated with one-time tasting and then it turns them off completely from trying anything else. I mean, is there any benefit to even like abandoning? Can you leave a word off? Do you legally have to call it kombucha? Can you rebrand kombucha as something else to make it less like artsy over there and make it more approach? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
Because there's a very particular community that started there, and now it's shifting a little bit more mainstream, more and more every single day, right?
Yeah.
Does my question make sense?
It does.
Okay.
And we've talked, like, we've had these, maybe this is something that we wouldn't normally say, like, out loud or on
like
air.
Some behind the scenes stuff.
But
we're here for it.
Yeah, because we've had so many people say, and we're good, we can keep rolling if you want.
Cool.
But we've had so many people say, like Danielle was saying, I hated kombucha before I tried your alls, or, I've had a ton of kombucha, really love the category, and your alls is my favorite. Like, those sorts of things. First of all, I mean, they make us feel really good about what we're doing.
Oh, man. It keeps me going.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. But then there are we've noticed a pattern that, like, when people first try kombucha, there are lots of folks out there who don't like it initially. And so we were saying for the first couple of years of Elixir, when we were, doing the education thing at the markets and events and stuff, that it can be an acquired taste, just to kind of let people know, like,
you've never tasted anything like this before.
Yeah, probably not. Is not going to taste exactly like a soda or anything else, or even seltzer or whatever.
Like it's a fermented tea.
Yeah.
Not to go down this, I kind of want to ask this question while we're on it though. Yeah. Okay, so how do you teach somebody? Is there any way of getting them to like actually separate expectation with the flavor that you present to them? Because to your point, it's like, are they thinking through a soda lens while they're drinking this? Right. And they go, oh, it's different from soda, so I don't like it.
We've stopped using the word tea when we first introduced the product to people.
Yeah, because especially in the South, people have an expectation of what tea is supposed to taste like.
It is a tea. Like, that's our main ingredient. It's a black tea that we use as our base for fermentation. But
I asked this question because I have family that like, they have a very strict definition for what like certain things should taste like. Like chicken has this flavor.
Yeah.
You put these seasonings on it and that's how it should always be. Yeah. There's no such thing as experimenting. So I'm curious, how do you open people up?
Yeah. So we generally try and lead with, this is a bubbly, delicious probiotic beverage.
We just call it a beverage
Yeah.
at this point, not a fermented tea
Yeah.
or a, yeah.
So, and if they ask more questions, we can kind of tell them it's semi-sweet, semi-tart. You know, if they're asking for more like descriptors.
Or how it's made.
But we really lean into it's bubbly, so it's going to satisfy that that need for that carbonation that people have. Like they love their sodas for the bubbles. They love
Sparkling
their seltzers,
waters.
yeah, for the bubbles. So we want people to know it's bubbly and it's delicious. Like we're biased, obviously, but like we've over almost 10 years now making this product have pretty much perfected the recipe. It's super balanced. It's super smooth. It's not like there's a lot of very, very vinegary kombucha out there. It's not in that realm. It's more kind of like, it's definitely balanced, the sweet and the sour.
Now, does that mean that there's less of the good stuff, put it that way, in there because it's balanced?
No, it's a difference in the types of, it even can come down to the type of tea that you use.
Okay.
Certain types of tea promote different like organic acid profiles. So we maybe get into the weeds here, but
It's good.
the black tea that we use produces less acetic acid and more malic acid. And malic acid is kind of a sweeter, smoother, more apple-y kind of organic acid. And so that's how it comes across on the palate. Acetic acid, which is, a lot of kombucha, especially traditional kombucha out there, that is it's more of like a green tea type.
Green tea base. Green tea will ferment a little different, a little faster.
So it'll come across more like vinegar because acetic acid is vinegar.
Okay.
And so we've chosen a specific tea that produces a specific organic acid profile that really pleases our palates, and we've learned that it pleases our consumers' palates as well.
You were talking about like maybe getting, I don't know, however you phrased it, but like getting technical or in the weeds with it. I feel like if I was going to invest like serious cash, I'd want to know that you're a real expert, because so many people, they hop on trends and they're very surface level knowledgeable. You know what I mean? So I think if you get in those weeds a little bit, I would think that would actually be a benefit.
Yeah, that's totally true.
I think that's
people want to know. Like,
yeah, we never want to we don't call ourselves experts or anything, because we're just
we're pretty darn good
shy
at making kombucha. But
Yeah, but if you're out there like trying and you're trying to inform yourself, you're trying to look at the science of it, that's different than somebody that's just, the words coming out of their mouth are framing it as like money opportunities. You know, I think that frames who you are and why you're really doing this.
Yeah,
you know
for
what I mean?
sure. I mean, like we go back to the beginning of the conversation, we discovered a passion for this while at home brewing this on our kitchen counter. And that has fueled us through the journey of growing the business side of it and learning about distribution and gross margins and dealing with retailers and marketing and sales. And like, because we, at the bottom of all of it, we just freaking love making kombucha and seeing how our friends and family and now total strangers and customers out there love it too. Like we're fueled by it, and the business side of it has, it's been up and down. Like it's definitely been a journey, but because there's passion at the bottom, like we just keep going. We just keep persisting. Like no matter what adversity is in front of us, the passion for the product itself just keeps us going.
Well, and I mean, obviously with the healthcare background, like helping people is actually at the root of it, right? Now your vehicle is just a beverage.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Which is cool. Yeah,
we being in healthcare, we had this conversation recently that because at some point you have to kind of make that decision, when do you leave your job and jump into the business full time? And it's tough to say. There's not a perfect answer for, everybody's situation is different. But at a certain point we realized that the impact that we could make in our careers as healthcare professionals is generally like kind of on a one-to-one basis. Like Danielle would deal with one client at a time. I would deal with 1 to 2 patients at a time in an ICU setting. And there's a deep sense of fulfillment there. But the scale it's only what you can do in the moment for that person. But moving into the business, now our ability to reach more lives and impact more people's gut health and overall health, the scale of it is just, it's exponentially more than what it was when we were,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
when we were in healthcare. So
Well-
that aspect of it, we're really like excited about, and is for sure like at the core of our.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask too, because
mission.
ICU nurse during COVID, travel nurses, that all is like, that screams opportunity.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that was a huge deal, right? People traveling like on buses and stuff and going to places where, and a lot of ICU nurses saw money signs of like, I know I can negotiate the crap out of this right now. So obviously you didn't do that. So you must have loved something to not do that. Maybe it's Danielle. Maybe it's
he
the
thought about
beverage.
it. I have this window of time where we're not brewing, and this hospital up here could use me.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. The fact that I was in an industry during the lockdowns and the all of the waves of infections and hospitalizations, it had a negative impact on the business, obviously, because 75% of our accounts shut down overnight or closed. And so our sales pretty much plummeted for, a couple months until we pivoted to do an e-commerce home delivery service, which was, that's a whole other story. But still being active in nursing was our lifeline, really, like through that. I was able to, pick up extra shifts at the hospital, and it was, scary and intense, and we were still all figuring out what is this virus, and how do we treat it properly, and how do we protect ourselves against it as I was
scared
as the care
to go to work.
the caregivers for these folks that are dealing with this. It was like a whole host of emotions and perspectives on it, but it was definitely a lifeline for us, financially to keep going, even when the business was like pretty much shut down for a little while. So I was, and I kind of felt like there was a sense of duty there as well to stay in the industry and kind of see this thing through, and help out, while I still could and had a little bit of extra time on our hands because we weren't brewing as much. And so, but yeah, the pandemic has totally revolutionized the nursing industry, like altogether. Like it's created, as perverse as this kind of sounds, it's created a huge opportunity for nurses, and has kind of empowered the industry to really show like how important nurses are to the healthcare system. So it was definitely a lifeline for us, but at the same time, like I wasn't able to really capitalize on all of the opportunities because the business still needed me as well. So it kind of, saw the, and obviously the pandemic isn't like totally over, even though our president may have said so, but then apparently they walked that back too. It's definitely changed, and things are kind of starting to normalize. And I have, decided that, to take that leap and go into Elixir full time. So I actually resigned from nursing last year, and I'm now fully in on Elixir.
Yeah, that's awesome. Should we like crack this open and actually taste
please
a little bit? We might as well.
Which flavor do you want to do? I'll tell you. So we've got pineapple ginger, which is our best seller.
I have to try that.
Lavender lemonade.
I was going to say the lavender sounds really good too.
Yeah, that's...
lavender lemonade. Yeah, we should run the numbers for the last probably 60 days because lavender's been coming up recently.
It usually does in the spring. I think it's people might just see like lavender and or lemonade as more of like a just summer month type of.
Is there a right way to pour?
Oh no, like a beer.
Yeah, just down the side of the glass, so
not like what I just did.
That's all right. Cool. Yeah, just so that CO2.
I'm getting suboptimal tasting here.
That's all right.
Do I need it? Wait.
Here, let's
do it.
You pour down the side. It just kind of preserves. You want some?
No,
Got it.
Okay. Good.
I already love that it is not like knocking me down vinegar smell.
Oh yeah.
And back to that, Corey was talking about
That's
like
a good batch.
yeah, sure. Why not?
Oh yeah, that's really good.
You dig it?
Yeah,
All right.
I see what you mean about being balanced.
Cool.
Yeah, that's great.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But there are so many factors that go into it. We, in particularly, tout our water supply sitting on the limestone bed in Kentucky as like some of the best water in the country. And
I'm just laughing because you're saying this like 24 hours after that the barge incident that's going on right now in Louisville.
Oh, we don't know about the barge incident.
Oh, there's
what
like
happened?
14 barges that got loose or something from a tug.
Oh no.
One of them has is it methanol or something on it that's like it's now all in the river, but I think it's downstream from where your water supply comes from. So
We'll say that it is.
This just happened. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, we brewed this week's batch went on before that happened. Thank goodness. So
Yes.
hopefully,
and while we do
thank you for
have-
saying that though.
Yeah.
We'll need to
yeah, thank you for that information.
make sure that we're going to be good.
We do.
Yeah, it was
still
like
run
right
it
before
through-
going to bed last night. It came across.
Oh
the
man.
news.
Okay.
I missed that entirely. We do
Damn.
still run our water through a filter, even though we have some of the best in the country. But like humidity plays a role. Just the wild yeast in the air, the environment in general. So like there are I'm going to usually tell people there are as many ways to make like wine and beer. There's that many ways to make kombucha. So many factors play a role in what makes one
Absolutely.
taste good or approachable. And
Even the shape of the tank that it's fermented
shape of the
in
tank, for sure.
can have an impact on
How?
surface area is
Okay.
so kombucha is I guess we didn't go specifically into the process. Kombucha is it's a fermented tea, like Danielle said, made with simple ingredients. So you have water, sugar, tea, and a living culture called a SCOBY, which is an acronym for symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. So the bacteria and the yeast work together in the culture to consume the sugar and caffeine in the tea, and which is what yields a low calorie probiotic rich beverage at the end of fermentation. And during fermentation, it needs oxygen. Whereas if you make beer or wine, you generally want to at a certain point starve the fermentation of oxygen, because oxygen can produce off flavors in those products. Well, for kombucha, because there's bacteria in our culture, we actually need oxygen in our fermentation. So our tanks are open top, and with just a cloth that we wrap over the top of the tank so that oxygen can get to the bacteria. And
the CO2 can kind of breathe its way out.
And surface area has an impact. So generally speaking, the shorter and the wider your tank, the faster your kombucha will ferment.
Like a cauldron, kind of almost.
Yeah,
Or
have you ever seen like a dairy tank that's like kind of shorter and longer?
Yeah.
Like more shallow.
More shallow. Those style tanks generally ferment a little bit faster and can create different flavor profiles than taller and skinnier tanks.
Got it.
So it's just different styles and preferences.
Interesting. Cool. What's your favorite flavor?
Oh, mine's grapefruit for sure.
Grapefruit?
Yeah, that one's up there.
I love the grapefruit. It's
Yeah.
got hibiscus and orange peel. So I don't like raw grapefruit.
Me neither.
But our grapefruit flavor is my favorite because I think the hibiscus kind of comes in with like a cherry berry sort of vibe, and then the orange peel is there to kind of like tamp down the bitterness of the grapefruit. So
That one
love
makes
it.
a great Paloma.
Okay.
If you make a Paloma and you can, or if you make a non-alcoholic Paloma, there's a lot of good tequila alternatives out there now.
I
Naked
saw
Lady,
you making that on the news.
yeah, Naked
Oh,
Lady
yeah.
Spirits. She's based in Louisville. Shout out to Becca. She met her tequila alternative is an awesome spirit for margaritas and palomas. So our grapefruit kombucha with her tequila alternative is awesome.
What's your favorite?
It's like choosing between children. Like I don't know. Pick one. Probably pineapple ginger. I think
Just pick one.
yeah, pick one. Probably pineapple ginger because it's so smooth. Like every time I crack one open, I'm reminded that it probably is. It probably is my favorite out of all of them. And most of the kombucha sold on the market is a ginger flavor of some sort. It seems that ginger and kombucha are just, I mean, they're like peanut butter and jelly. They just go together so well. They complement each other from a flavor standpoint. Ginger has also digestive benefit to it as well. So that probably will be, today I'll say that one's my favorite. Tomorrow might be blueberry pomegranate, but...
So to get sort of like to the end here, what's maybe like a really scrappy story that you have as entrepreneurs?
Scrappy as in
running the business, something, you know, that maybe you had to figure out in a time crunch, or I don't know.
I've got one,
whatever it might be,
right off the bat. If you want to think about yours,
I'm gonna marinate on that one for a second.
Well, it's just, it's probably just a journey of scrappiness. Like we just kind of have to accept the fact that we've got to stay scrappy pretty much, because we've been undercapitalized. That's another thing that's getting fixed right now with the fundraise. In a way, we're under our first round of investment right now. But, you know, historically kind of being an undercapitalized beverage brand and, you know, trying to kind of figure it out along the way, we've luckily had a lot of mentors that we've been able to lean on, a lot of beer brewers in Louisville that have been, you know, hugely important and willing to help us out and think through equipment and scaling up. And so we give a lot of credit to the people around us that have compensated for our weaknesses and ignorance. But, you know, as far as scrappiness in production, it's still there today. Like, we still do things on a very small scale that are very hands-on and probably inefficient. We can only fill 2 cans at a time right now. And we seam 1 can at a time. It's all done by hand. It's very slow, but we're working with what we have. And we are on a couple weeks back order right now. So there, you know, the
and
market...
you sitting here for an hour and a half with me is just digging into that. Right?
Oh, well, hey, like Danielle
let's
said,
talk faster.
Yeah, no, like we can't rush the kombucha, so we're on its timeline.
Go
honestly.
faster, damn it!
Yeah.
Like I said earlier.
We do have an awesome lady in production who's canning right now.
Oh,
so.
okay.
Yeah, for sure. Lisa.
Yep.
Shout out to Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. So I'll tell you, the first time that we brewed a batch of tea back in April 2016, we had no idea that you could. So it's a batch of hot tea that we just finished. We can't dump the scalding hot tea into the fermenter because our kombucha culture doesn't like heat. Yeah. So if you dump the hot tea into the fermenter, the culture will not like that and probably wouldn't survive it. But we didn't realize that there were ways of speeding up the chilling process. So we filled up our 5-gallon buckets of the scalding hot tea and stuck them in the refrigerator.
Which is terrible for refrigeration units, by the way.
Absolutely. And just waited. And a couple hours later, we checked, still too hot. So we went to dinner.
We treated ourselves to a nice
and we came back. It still wasn't ready. And we just sat around. It was like almost 7 hours before the tea had come down to temp, safe enough to put into the fermenter. And we brewed like that for a little while, to be honest. And,
wow.
You know, maybe this is more of a story of like our ignorance than scrappiness, but we brewed like that for a while until we discovered, again, by virtue of our beer brewing friends, that there's something called a counterflow chiller that you can hook up.
We used the wort chiller first.
Oh yeah, we dunked a wort chiller into our tea for a little while, and that was an upgrade. We thought this is the best thing ever, but it still took 30 minutes to chill like 5 gallons.
Yeah.
And then we learned about a counterflow chiller, and before you knew it, we learned about brewing a tea concentrate and diluting our tea with filtered water before we dumped it into the fermenter, and like things that you don't know what you don't know, and sometimes you have to just like go through the process, make the mistakes, learn from them. Hopefully you can reach out to other folks who are smarter and more experienced than you to help compensate for that. But another story about getting carbonation into our product. So we do a traditional fermentation, but we don't bottle condition. We don't do a secondary fermentation. And one of the reasons is that can produce more alcohol in the product, and we need to be a non-alcoholic product to stay compliant and make sure that, that everyone is, getting and they have an expectation for what the product is. You don't want to get carded for your kombucha. And so we chose to ditch the secondary fermentation when we went commercial and went to forced carbonating product, which just means you get CO2 from a CO2 supplier and you inject it into the product. And we went through a bunch of different ways of trying to make that happen. Some of which involved, for instance, hooking up one of our kegs to a tank of pressurized CO2 and laying the tank down on the ground, or the keg down on the ground, and standing over it with our feet on it and rolling it back and forth on the ground, because you have to agitate the liquid for the CO2 to infuse into liquid quickly. So we would do that.
Before
and
we would have our kegs hooked up to CO2 for 2 days.
Yeah.
Just for 5 gallons.
Yeah. So
the things you learn.
Yeah, so we would stand there rolling kegs back and forth, for 8 to 10 minutes at a time, times 60 to 80 kegs. It was just, we spent half the week just rolling kegs on the ground.
I thought Corey was going to need a knee replacement.
I think this is a great demonstration of scrappiness.
Yeah.
But all of this goes into why you're raising capital,
yes.
right?
Manufacturing equipment is expensive. It's very akin to a brewery. So when you go to, any old brewery who's at large scale and see their giant packaging tanks and fermenters, it's like that stainless steel equipment is very expensive. So in order for us to leave our kitchen incubator where we have, low overhead, but
small and slow equipment.
Yes, but also that. And we're sharing, cold storage with a bunch of other companies as well. It takes a lot of capital to get moved out, to have everything that you need. Walk-ins, brew kettles, fermenters,
canning line,
all of that's very expensive. And also, I just like to point out the irony that a kombucha company can go into a bank and ask for a loan, and they're like, "How do you say that?" And we're like, "Ooh," but a beer brewer can go get a pre-revenue loan to open a brewery.
Because it's an established industry, and
I was going to ask you that question of why go the VC investment sort of route?
Because we've been told no by a lot of banks, more than I care to count, actually.
And what's their reason?
Mostly because they don't understand the industry, or they don't, or collateralizing the loans. We didn't own a home at the time that we were hunting around for banks, and so we just didn't have any collateral to put up for the hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment that we needed. And one bank asked us if we could put our parents' house up for the loan. We were like, absolutely not.
This conversation is over.
So I guess this is a no.
Yeah. Yeah, but we have hit an inflection point with Elixir that, like I mentioned, we're on several weeks back order right now, and that doesn't include the growing wait list that we have for our product. So we're lucky that we're in a situation where our market demand exceeds our ability to produce the product. It is a problem, but it's the type of problem that you want to have. And like Danielle said, we kind of approached banks for a little while, got a bunch of no's, kind of realized that we wasted our time in a way going down that route, because it all came down to, risk management for them. And we understand they have their expectations in terms of collateral. So, and
let me just also say, they would say okay, we'll approve you for this much, but it wouldn't be near enough to make a difference. So it wasn't always no, but it was just not enough.
Yeah, for sure. And, to do this truly how, we want to do it, to adhere to our core values of making the product, as authentically as possible. And, not rushing the process by cutting corners like we mentioned earlier. Yes, the equipment is expensive, but then there's also the soft costs of marketing and sales budgets. When you scale and expand into these regional or even national retailers, there are expectations for, promotional discounts and slotting fees and all of these, hidden costs that come along with expanding distribution. And so we have this market opportunity, And we know that it takes a lot of capital to kind of get to where we need to be profitable and sustainable enterprise. And, so we had decided that, the only way to do this is to put a pitch deck together. Mm-hmm. And we had heard, we had been reached out to a few folks that said, hey, if you ever go to raise investment, let me know. I'd be interested. And so the last year we got our pitch deck together, and we were lucky enough to align with Gil Holland, who's a local filmmaker and community developer now in Louisville. He's also the founder of Harlan County Brewing Company, so he's kind of focusing his efforts also on Eastern Kentucky. But he, came down to the kitchen. We showed him the process. He agreed to be our lead investor, and he really encouraged us to consider a crowdfunding equity crowdfunding portion of the investment. And he had raised some funds for the Harlan County Brewing Company on WeFunder. And so, we looked into WeFunder, and, their mission of allowing people to invest in startups that they love, even, for as little as $100. Anybody can get on there. You don't have to be an accredited investor. You don't have to have like $1 million net worth and, all of these things that traditionally were required for investing in private companies. All of those barriers have been removed now with this new legislation. And WeFunder was a big pioneer in getting that legislation passed. So, we really align with that mission of kind of democratizing investment and making it a more inclusive opportunity for people that, want to have an opportunity to put some money into a company that they believe in and connect with, yeah, and also support. Our wins become their wins, mm-hmm. too. Like we're really building a community here. So Gil Holland was the first one to sign on. Keyhorse Capital, who's an arm of the Kentucky Science and Technology Fund, they followed on as well, and we launched our WeFunder in January. We have now roughly 80 investors, I believe, mm-hmm. that have invested in Elixir. Everyone from Render Capital, a venture capital firm in Louisville. They have a really unique matching program with WeFunder. It's one of a kind, and it's an awesome program that they have. So now Render Capital is invested in Elixir. So we have these kind of like institutional investors, a very notable lead angel investor in Gil Holland, and now our friends and family and colleagues, like former nurses that I worked with at the hospital, have seen the journey and been part of the journey and have taste tested product, as I was bringing it into the hospital, over the years, and given feedback on the early iterations of Elixir recipes, now have an opportunity to invest in Elixir. Danielle's hairstylist, Michelle, shout out to Michelle. She's an investor in Elixir now. It's really this interesting and kind of new era of raising capital, and for the investors, it's really broken down barriers for just regular folks to align with a company that they love and support and be along for the ride too.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
Our WeFunder is still active. Like I said, we're up to 80 investors, and it's still going at least through the end of April. And people can reach out to us on Instagram or go on our website and fill out a contact form if they have more questions. But come one, come all, because Elixir is going places. We've got 2 national distributors now. Our plan is to grow incrementally and strategically. We've seen a lot of companies try and go too wide, too fast, and have paid the price for it. Growing too fast can almost be a problem too, and so we're very aware of that. And we've gotten to the point now where we have such a strong customer base in our local markets. So Louisville, mostly. Lexington now is a growing market. We're at Whole Foods and Good Foods here in Lexington. Looking forward to growing our distribution here as well. Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati, you can find our products now there. Indianapolis through Green District. We've partnered with them. They're an awesome salad quick service restaurant that's made us their exclusive kombucha here in the region.
Maybe you can approach them about the dressing, by the way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, we talked about it.
Yeah, I think we actually have talked about with Rob.
That's funny.
Their culinary guide there. So
wait, you already talked about this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, damn.
I think it. Now that you mention it, it has been mentioned before.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But keep the ideas
Keep
flowing.
me looped in, though.
There's something. Yeah.
Take me to find your seat.
Yeah. So there's so much opportunity in front of us. Our wait list it's a mile long now. Like we've gotten to the point now where when we have website submissions asking about wholesale pricing, because more establishments want to carry Elixir. It's crazy. We've got to the point where now we think, oh no, another account, because we
you don't want to disappoint people and you want all the business you can get, of course.
Yeah.
But
we've reached a point in our production where we can't. We're turning business down, and it's a good problem, yes, but it's a problem that we're working to fix.
Yeah.
So how long does it take to turn around the issue? April 30th comes, you close out, and hopefully you can run and grab some new gear, some equipment.
Actually,
right?
We've been ordering equipment.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're hoping to be moved into our new production facility and operational by like the first week of June. I mean, we've been saying like late May.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have to tell wholesale accounts right now, like, maybe come back?
Bear with us. Yeah.
We're saying like be patient. Like
Yes.
well, and again, because it's like the fermentations are like a 3-week process. So we're like, we have more coming off every week, but like right now we're already like into week 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And that doesn't include the wait list of people who have yet to even purchase our product,
Yeah, or our
which is
subscribers' orders coming through.
So we're asking for patience. We put on our website, like, if you place an order, just know it's going to take a little longer to get it to you than it normally would. But
And everybody's been so cool about it too.
yeah, absolutely.
They get it.
But as far as timeline goes, fermenters arrived yesterday, so we're scaling up from our 125 gallon fermenters to 900 gallon fermenters. We're really excited about those. They're big,
gorgeous.
They're big and beautiful, and the perfect ratios and dimensions for kombucha fermentation. We have a canning line that's going to be arriving in the next couple weeks.
Like Corey said, we do like 2 cans a minute, and we're about to do like 30 cans a minute.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So equipment is already on its way. We're still raising investment. A lot of that is going to go toward the soft costs, the marketing, and we've been in a position of such market pull that we really haven't had to push our product much. And so, we know we're going to need resources. The further we go out from our home city and then our home state, the less brand awareness we have, and the more resources we'll have to kind of get that brand awareness in these new markets.
Are you on TikTok?
We
are.
Because I swear, like, do you make content for this?
I think we've made like 3 videos.
I swear to God, if you open your phone literally every single day, and everything that you're dealing with, the struggles, the good stuff, how you communicate with your wholesale accounts, the established ones to let them know, like, hey, we're going to have to, you got to be patient. The new ones, like all of that stuff, how you deal with investment, all of that. If you said each one of those things in front of the phone, you'd absolutely kill it.
Yeah.
Killing it might.
You don't have to make anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but at the same time, if they're paying any attention to the words coming out of your mouth, they'll recognize where you are.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that won't be an issue.
On or
like it's frictionless. Like it's open up your phone and talk.
Yeah. For sure.
Like when you talk about soft costs and marketing, it's like we do marketing and we make content. I'm telling you how not to need a marketing firm. Just open it up and talk.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because that would kill it.
For sure. Because you're saying that, I needed to hear that. You get lost in the day-to-day sometimes, and that's obviously an important aspect of it. And being a small team, talking about Scrappy, like all of the social media stuff that we do is all in-house. Like there's no marketing firm that is creating content for us and posting about it. But you're right, man. Like the people love that authenticity and love seeing behind the scenes and connecting with the people behind the brand. So
potential VCs are living there. I mean, like real business happens on TikTok. Potential investors are there.
Yeah.
When you talk about taking away the gatekeepers and making it $100, Oh, I saw the signal go out for a second. When you make it, you democratize it now. I mean, obviously, all the people on TikTok potentially are investors to help fulfill that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You got other people that are just in the kombucha community that just want to learn. You got other people that are starting their journeys that are going to reach out. Because, I mean, usually you look at people that are like 6 to 12 months in front of you, like, oh, what are they doing? How'd they get to that very next rung, right? Yep. So there's going to be people looking to you for advice. You're going to be able to find people just by using the app that are maybe in that next step where you're going to be that you can reach out to. You know, I mean, the world's your oyster. That's true. And if you think it's too basic of a thing to share, it's probably the right thing to share.
Okay.
Because most people think, oh, well, most people know about that. I'm not going to share that. Or like everybody talks about that. It's like, no, tell that story.
Yeah.
Tell a story about YouTube meeting. Like all that kind of stuff matters. Because what do VCs care about? You as individuals, the relationship, your drive, all that kind of stuff, the scrappiness. What do you know about business? Like, where does this business even come from? What are the challenges in the marketplace? I would literally think through all the... Do you know who Alex Lieberman is? From Morning Brew. He's CEO.
I've heard his name for sure.
Yeah. So you just got to... I would say, like, Crazy Ones Show. That's what it's called. Their handle on Instagram. Crazy Ones Show.
Okay.
So he started this, and it's him basically going to individual business owners and doing like quick little hits with them for 20 seconds. What's the name of your business? Like, what problem do you solve? And everything has to be answered in one sentence.
Okay.
What problem do you solve? What are challenges that are out there? He even says, like, what's your scrappiest story? All that kind of stuff. Because those at the heart of it are what VCs care about.
Cool.
So if you're looking for investors and stuff, I would think the content would be like answering each one of those things.
Yeah.
Without explicitly saying, I'm making this for VCs.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Hello, VC.
It's like, oh, right now, what's going on right now in the market is blah, blah, blah. And here's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
Like, that would absolutely kill it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much.
Anyway, I really appreciate...
Yeah.
I appreciate both of you making the trip out here, being patient with the tech setup and getting set back up in here after having the Food Network stuff going on in here. And then, you know, I don't know if you probably don't understand the compliment that was happening in front of you, but I keep drinking because it's so good.
Yeah.
It really
Thank
is.
you so
It's
much.
delicious. And I appreciate the gift of bringing those here.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you.
Enjoy those.
And we should do a follow-up sometime.
Yeah,
Maybe
we'd
in
love
like a
to.
year or two after, you know, there's been some
That'd be great.
exponential
Some
growth.
wins. Yeah, for sure, man.
So,
Let's do follow-up for
cool.
sure. Look forward to it.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you,
for having us
Brandon.
on.